Let me get to the volume first, okay? Check the volume.
263, Task 6, Assignment 1, Computers.
Okay. Can you hear it, Mandy? Okay, good to go, Elena. You want more?
Review. We don't have much to review, but essentially, what did we talk about last time? What's different in this world of computers? The interpreter can't hear the question. That's one, but keyboard versus a typewriter. Do you remember a big difference? They look the same. Ten key, right, yes. It has a 10 key. It's, like an adding machine. That's nice, and the typewriter doesn't have it. What more, Richard? There's more keys, yes. That's a good one. The L does not look like a 1. That would cause a lot of trouble if we started that. What's another thing? Yes. Let's go back to the numbers, or the number of keys. Do you remember that you had the option or the option shift? You can get more characters than on a typewriter. Return. The return bar. We have a return key. When you push on the return key on the keyboard, in a word processor, what happens? You're right, Julie. We didn't skip a line. We created a blank line. It's not skipping a line. So there's nothing there, right? So you just go on. So when you have a blank line or space, what is it called? Or I shouldn't say that, but what does it create? We realize it's a paragraph break, okay? So normally we would say, hit the return to create what? A paragraph. A paragraph can have characters in it. Doesn't have to. What else? What else did we learn that was different? The typewriter doesn't have a lot of fonts. The computer has a lot of fonts. It can look the same as a published book. What else is different? It has a lot of fonts. Many, many fonts. Yes, the computer has many of them. I don't expect you to memorize them all. Just 2 different types. Just 2 different fonts. Remember? Which ones did we talk about? Serif and sans serif. Sans serif is real pretty. And the other one is more block. The block one, the sans serif, if you use that, for writing, it's slow and it's difficult to read. But if you use the serif, you would know by the shape that it'd be easier to read. It's faster with the serif font. We didn't discuss it a lot, but we will discuss it again. What key on the typewriter do you strike? If we do it on a word processor, where does it copy? The blinking light, right? It's in the point. Not to be confused with the cursor. Someone asked me, was it Joan? Yeah. I can't get the point to go where I want it to go. Sometimes I click, and it seems to have a mind of its own. The computer does have a mind of its own. It has rules. Like if you start typing, we're in America, where do we start? In the upper left-hand corner. Except for if you want, a different place. And if you try to move that point into the center of a letter, it's going to say, no, you have to go to the left corner. Watch the interpreter, ha, ha, ha. Class is laughing. Okay. But there is a way around that. You need to get into the point into the center. Maybe if you want to start in the middle, how would you get that point into the middle to move? Return and return. You just hit return again and again, and it'll move down. So anything that you create, like paragraph for, then you can move the point into the middle. Does that make sense, Joan? If you've not created a paragraph for it, then it's not going to move. It can't go there. So, okay. Then we went to the lab. We had some problems, but you guys all solved your problems. We'll show you again when we go in how to drag the folder, the document, and get the document out, so you can get it down onto your disk. There's some new stuff, and we'll go over that also. I couldn't hear the question. You are paying attention to my lecture, right? I will go over it again this time, or today. Yeah, that's why when you tried to save, you need to do a backup on a computer. But anyway, we will just go over it again. We'll review it. Then when you click on it and you open it up, it's a very beautiful document there. But what if there's an error there? What do? Do you cancel it? Do you try and figure it out? It's pretty easy. Essentially, just find the word that's wrong and try to find the word in the dictionary that you know, to find the spelling. Like if you're spelling H-E, in the program itself, it knows how to spell that. But when you try to spell, I don't know, something, H and something in it, it's not the right word that you want. You have to look for it, or maybe you'll have a word that's not in the dictionary, especially proper names. So you have to type, and then type it in there and then tell it to ignore that. And then go on. There's one little embarrassing thing in there. Like for the word to, T-O-O, to. That's right spelling, but so, it'll pass that. It won't pick it up as a spelling error. It's your responsibility to what? You need to critique it yourself. Not leave the computer with all the responsibility. And then when we save our work in the lab, we go to save it as what? Where do you always save your work? On the desktop? No, not on the desktop. You save it in the document folder. That folder is on the desktop. That's why I specifically put it there. Why do we do that? I can't hear. We want you involved, to figure out where to save it. Okay, so essentially what we need to do is click on the desktop, find the floppy disk, open it, and then save our work. We'll go over that again later today. So essentially that's about what we did last time. Okay, now we're going to change for today. Get a look on what we're going to do. What's going to happen today. When we write letters to friends or maybe to children, nieces or nephews, or our grandchildren, do we worry about what the spelling looks like? Not normally, but they want to know about your news. So what we're going to do from now on is we're going to try to make our letters look better. Maybe like you're on a committee, or maybe like on a political type of thing. maybe not on a political committee, but your political complaint, and you would want to send that. Maybe you say something's wrong or right, or you want to vote for a specific thing. You know, it's different if you're writing your son or your daughter or your grandchildren. You know, they're not going to want to read that. So we need to make it look better. So we're going to change from the word processor, it's going to become desktop publisher. I know that's kind of confusing, but we'll discuss how to use desktop publisher. And I believe that you'll want to write a letter to make, and you'll want to make it to give somebody to read, and you'll make it look better. If you go from the left margin to the right margin, we talk about margins. We'll talk about the left and the right margin on the paper. Let me draw that on the board up here. We have a nice sheet of paper, and normally the paper is what? 8.5 by 11. Okay. So if I start my margin here, and I leave 1/2 an inch, you know, and just type, then then they're going to know I'm very Scottish, and then I'm trying to use all the paper that I possibly can, or save all the paper. You know, it's going to be just full of text. Are you going to want to have to read that, you know, like maybe from your wife? No. So the margins are really important. We have to give people white areas. So you want, you know, a minimum of 1 inch. So you want to, you know, want to have a word takes about 1/4 of an inch. So you want 1/4. Okay. That's the margin. Now, how many of you have seen a paragraph? And then you move the paragraph there, and you start another paragraph. Why would you want to do that? Start your different paragraphs. Yeah. Essentially, it sets up the paragraph. First thing, what do you see? The first thing you see when they're really close together, you know, or a small paragraph, you think, oh, about 5 seconds, I can read that. So that's an important part of this issue. So we can do indent or change the margins. Now, when some of you use a typewriter and you're finished, another word that we use is a tab or an indent. That's different. That's a different kind of change than changing the margins. The margins, it's an overall look. Indent is more for what? A new paragraph, right? So we found that we've learned to make paragraphs. We can tab or return to make the paragraph break. You can use both. Is it proper? No. Who was in here that said they'd read Robin Williams' book? She's a woman author, I think. No, she's from California. California is a state. She's a community college person. Anyway, you can go and look at it for the class. I know she's coming February 8th, but anyway, she can write anything. That woman, maybe I'm making a mistake about that, but anyway. Anyway, she wrote a book about titled "A Computer is Not a Typewriter." And the lecture that she's going to do here will be about the word processor and get the information from the book. So we'll go back to the subject. Indenting and the space for paragraph, the two of them are choices, but do you continue to use them, or do you have to use one or the other? Me, I like to just leave the space. Remember, the more white, then it looks like there's less to read, so it looks better. Other people will use, we've discussed this already, but including, cutting and pasting and dragging and drop and drag. Any of those work. When you cut and paste, let me back up. When you copy and paste or cut and paste, you have to explain what happens. Let me explain what happens. And you open the book about computers, and there's a part in there is what we call the clipboard. What is a clipboard?
Well, Mandy, I don't know if you saw what Elena signed, but she said that was painful.
Only worse, my phone